Oh, hello. My name is Mara and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Okay, so I am back this year doing a video that I did last year that I got a lot of really positive response to, and so I thought I would do it again, which is basically ideas about how I use my bullet journal to help keep track of bookish things. I want to make the biggest of caveats before we even get started, which is that I am not like a great artist. I am not a great bullet journaler, a bujoer. I'm not like the best at this. This is purely just, hey, here are some practical ways that I use my bullet journal to help me keep track of all my reading stuff, and some ideas of maybe some things that might be helpful for you as we get ready for a new year. I know a lot of people are kind of planning out how they're going to be doing their bullet journal stuff. So I thought that I would just share some spreads that I use this year. I'm gonna just insert pictures here of what each of them look like so that I'm not trying to show you in here up close because my camera is not nice enough for that to be very effective. So in case you're wondering, I do just have the standard Lecterme 1917 in this sort of like turquoisey blue color. I really like this. I find that the pages don't bleed or anything super bad. I also use the Micron pens because, you know, I just think that they tend to look nice. And then I do use the standard Tombow markers because, again, they work well for some of the very basic lettering that I do, and I like having the dual-ended items. So just in case you were curious about what I use, that is that. And so yeah, let me just show you some of the spreads that I use that I found to be really helpful in managing my reading throughout the year. Okay, so in terms of beginning of the year planning, last year I did an I want to read spread, and I decided to do that again for this year. So on there I put my 19 books that I want to read in 2019, and then like a smattering of other books that I was like, oh, I really would like to find time to get to that at some point this year. I found that really helpful in keeping track of those 19 books throughout the year. And then as I've been doing some of my end of the year TBR planning and then going into next year's reading plans, it has been interesting for me to look back and see kind of what books I thought I might get to at the beginning of the year and where I'm at with those now. So anyway, I did this spread and I will definitely do it again next year because it was very helpful. Another spread that I did at the beginning of the year and then had a second version of it when I filled it up kind of midway through the year is my ARC list of 2019 arcs that I needed to get to. So I learned from the previous year's journal that really the things that I wanted to track on this spread were the author / title of it, the release date, so I could keep track of when that was happening, and then if I had read it yet or not. That was really all I wanted to track. And as I've been using this throughout the year, I have found that to be an effective spread for me. I did, like I said, halfway through the year, I had to move to a second one, and I set it up literally the exact same way because I was finding that that was suiting kind of what I was really wanting from that list, which was just an organized place to keep track of what arcs I had pending and when they were due, like basically when I needed to read them by. So that was a good spread for me this year. And then getting into my month-to-month items, I'll go back to some of the bigger spreads later, but just what I found started working really well for me on a month-to-month basis. On my overall calendar view, I started putting just like a little book counter thing that was showing how many books that I'd read this month. So literally just doing like a tick mark thing there. And then I did start creating every month a TBR little list at the beginning of the month. I found that really helpful in just having a consolidated place where I was keeping track of the books that I was like, these are the ones that I'm really planning on reading this month, outside of any mood reading that I might do. And it was helpful in terms of, you know, if I didn't get to it that month, to be able to like do the little arrow and tell myself to move it to the next month, etc. Yeah, so I found just like on a kind of day-to-day basis that to be an effective spread to do some of my reading TBR management. Moving into some of my more specialized spreads, first of all, I did go ahead and do a Mission Marple spread because I knew that that was going to be one of my big projects, reading projects for the year, and I wanted to keep track of when I was wanting to post the video for each of them, and then also just what star rating I ended up giving each of them. So this ended up being a good way to visualize that. And then when I realized that I was going to have a bunch of space on the bottom of the second page, I wanted to experiment with doing a spread that I've seen on some other people's bullet journal videos, which was basically like creating a visual bookshelf, and then as you read books you add them in there. I will say, because kind of my goal for this was like I only want to put things in here that are sort of like meatier books, like chunky books or kind of like more classics or more substantial books. And I think that that's been okay. I don't know that I would do this again. I think it looked fun, and I haven't necessarily had a lot of fun doing this, but it is an idea if you're interested in having like a more visual display in your bullet journal of some of the books that you've read. This is an idea. I think maybe if I was more artistically gifted, it might have been more fun for me. But it was fine. I don't think this is necessarily something I would seek to do again. And then another very useful spread that I have used throughout this year is my in-depth series tracker, because there are so many books and I wanted to keep track of what order I needed to read them in, because I got a lot of these from the library. So I kind of wanted to be able to not have to look up every single time on Goodreads to see what the order of them was. And then I highlighted the ones in gray that I already owned, either as an ebook or a physical book, so that I would know when I would need to put something on hold at the library versus something that I personally owned. And I think you probably can still see faintly that I was also putting in pencil the month, like the first letter of the month that I thought that I was going to read them in. But yeah, so I kept track of it in terms of the actual listing of them here. And then I also put the date that I read them and my star rating next to it. So that is cool, as that has built over time to sort of see the trends of the ratings that I was giving them. So yeah, this has been a very practical spread for me this year. And then it also, I think, will be a nice memory of this, experience of reading all these in-depth books. I would say in terms of just like practically, if you are looking for a spread of how to manage a long reading project, this one seemed to end up working out pretty well for me. And then another experiment. So kind of like in February or March, I realized that I wanted to do the Reading Women's reading challenge for the year. And I knew that I probably wasn't going to get to all of them. So I was trying to think of a creative way to do some of the challenge, or like to make it my own, basically. So I came up with the idea of doing a bingo board, and I like this idea. I don't know that I'm going to do this challenge again next year, but I definitely have enjoyed, it's been a good way to keep track of the books that I have left to read or that I need to read. So I think that this could be a fun spread if you are participating in a reading challenge that has enough prompts to it to make a decent sized bingo board. This might be kind of a fun way to do it. So yeah, I don't know that this specific challenge I would do again, but I did like this spread in terms of, mixing things up and creating my own little sub challenge. Okay, and then another readathon example, the Asian readathon. So I don't know that I love the way that this spread came out. I think it served the purpose of being a consolidated list that included the title, the author, and then how it fit into the Asian readathon. So I think practically this ended up being, a pragmatic spread for me to have. I think I would redo it again to be a little bit more organized or prettier. I don't know. I'm not in love with this one, but this was an idea of how you could keep track of a readathon list. I wonder if maybe next year I would I don't know. I would have to think about how I'd like to redo this one in the future, but it got the job done. It was fine. Then my classics read spread. This is one that I'm going to rethink for next year because I definitely want to track this again. But basically I was trying to track all of the classics that I read this year. So both things that are like modern classics, and I just have picked 1950 as my cutoff there. But then also more like traditional classics. Yeah, so I like this idea, and again, pragmatically in terms of being able to keep track of what I read and like what fell into these various buckets. I think it's pragmatically been helppful or like useful, but I want to rethink how I lay it out. I may do it in like side-by-side columns next time, or I might do put like a little almost like a little call out box around it to make it look a little nicer. I don't know. I'm going to toy around with this one for next year, but I definitely like the idea of this. And if you are also somebody who is trying to read a lot of classics, I think this is a perfectly good way to keep track of them. Oh, and just, I guess one last quick shout out is I did make a spread for BookNet Fest just to keep track of the panels that I thought that I might go to / the panels that I was on, flight times, all that kind of stuff. So a little shout out here, not specifically bookish, but book related. Okay, so I think that those are most of the bookish spreads that I had for the year. Overall, I think that I took more time to create specifically book-related things in my bullet journal this year just because it is fun for me, and it's in terms of accumulating lists, it's like the main thing that I enjoy tracking throughout the year. So yeah, I think that I've enjoyed adding, like being more purposeful about adding bookish spreads to the lineup for me. And I think that I will continue to do that again next year. I think that that's mostly what I have for now. Again, I'm definitely not like some crazy artist or like beautiful maker of bullet journal spreads for books. Mine are never like nothing like as nice aesthetically as some of them are. But I do think that they are pretty practical in terms of helping me actually keep track of my reading. So I thought I would share just some ways that I use bullet journaling to help me track things, among many other tools that I use to keep my bookish life organized. Anyway, if you are a fellow bullet journaler / book nerd, definitely feel free to let me know kind of some of your thoughts about how you use your bullet journal to keep track of your bookish stuff. Let me know that in the comments, and yeah, I think that will do it. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you guys are having an absolutely lovely day, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!